You know how for a long time you're like, it's, it's, I can't remember exactly how you phrased it, but like you said to make a powerful EV is not a big deal.
Yeah, it's easy. You want to make a powerful, fast EV.
It's
It's
easy.
super easy, as everybody has proven.
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk about a few of them this episode. So,
Yeah, in fact, some one of them was a story that we reported on originally,
uh-huh.
and then it's now come back up in the news, and I think we kind of misreported on it initially,
Huh.
based on what I'm reading here. And even in one of the articles, it even said they misreported it. So we were reporting the news based on what somebody else had said, and in the
Hmm.
process, I think we fell a little bit short on what we reported, but we'll also correct that now, probably 20 episodes later.
Who's we?
I'm Phil Royle. I am one of the podcast co-hosts here. Uh, and I don't know, we have got a blog, thewalkcar.com, but where I really want you to go is youtube.com/@thewalkcar. Look at our smiling faces, and there you'll see Ed wearing a hat. You could go to thewalkcar.com/store if you want to. No, we don't have the hat anymore. I took the hats
Do we
down.
not? Oh,
No, the hats are gone. There was a whole tariff issue. Ironically, you're wearing a Charge Baby Charge
now a collector's item,
now
evidently.
is a collector's item. Who knows how much that's worth? But yeah, I had to take those down because there was something to do with the hat was sourced from Mexico, and like I keep talking every week about taking the store down, which I'm just too lazy to do it. But the hats fell victim to that, and it was gonna be too expensive to maintain them, and there was question as whatever. YouTube.com/@thewalkcar. Come and watch our smiling faces. I already said that. Off to you, Ed.
And Sanchez, a few years in automotive content creation and moderation. Current day job, automotive electronics industry analyst, and the Watt Car co-founder and contributor,
And compiler of news,
evidently.
because I say this.
You've had life going on, so
We both have life going on. I let life overtake me, and you managed to keep up with this. And one of the things you kept up with was Tesla is king no more.
yeah, not just
Asterisk.
barely toppled off its throne, but we'll see.
So this is the Model Y is no longer the global sales leader.
No, care to
Uh,
guess the
well, I
reason?
already know because you texted it and then you put it in our show notes. And it shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. It's a RAV4.
Yeah,
I'm assuming though that that's all of the RAV4s.
yes. So that would be regular. Well, they're all hybrid now, so or going forward, but yeah, that includes the Prime PHEV hybrid regular,
Yeah. And before, I think the RAV4 was number one, wasn't it? Before the
probably.
model, like I think this is the back and forth battle that's been
Yeah,
for this is like
globally,
the
I
the
mean, it
the
used to be the Corolla, and I think the RAV knocked off the Corolla. And even in the US, I mean, it's been the Ford F Series for forever. But
which
among
is
not,
which is a lie, but okay.
well, but for non-pickup vehicles, I think RAV4 is number one in the US too.
Yeah, and you went where I was going to go, which is remember back when it was always the Camry versus the Accord or something, or maybe it was a
Yeah,
Camry and Taurus. I don't remember,
yeah,
but it was always these two sedans, and then it went to SUVs, and the RAV4 took over. Back to the F Series and the top selling
yeah,
truck that includes everything. So
yeah.
it's
Super Duties,
yeah, so it's kind of
150s,
like
everything. Yeah,
we don't. I'm sure we do know, but the F-150 isn't necessarily the powerhouse that you think it is, although it probably is. But their F series count. I don't know how far up they count, but they go quite a
yeah.
height in
Also,
different
too,
F
I mean,
series.
not to diss on Ford at all. If you combine Silverado and Sierra sales, they're more than the F Series. Anyway,
Yeah. So it's like Ford managed to sneak that one through, and everybody just hears the F Series. Oh, the F
well,
150 is the number one
bestseller.
selling, and that's what you keep hearing repeated. And maybe it's true, but Ford's numbers, as far as I saw, are it's F 150,
250s.
250,
Every,
350,
yeah,
450,
everybody in the pool.
550.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's everything with an F in front of it. So, okay. So the RAV4, they won. Is this just Q2? Is this
This was
Q half?
no, this is not even 2025. This is estimated total for 2024. So
Okay.
this kind of, I guess, kind of old news, I guess, but
Hey, but it's
um,
still
yeah.
it's interesting then because this then if this is 2024 and you got a note here that says about 3,000 units, which is
Hmm.
a rounding error in the
Hmm.
numbers that we're talking about here. But uh this was before
Elon went crazy.
Elon went really, really crazy. He was only just
Just a little,
moderate. I don't know if he was moderate. He was pretty crazy then in
but
into
not full on
24,
Delulu.
but not, yeah, not absolutely nutso. And it's been this year where there's been a huge backlash against him and Tesla.
Hmm.
So that will be interesting to see how that plays out this year,
Hmm.
to see what happens. I honestly, I don't know. RAV4 is pretty good. If you're not going to get a full electric vehicle,
Yeah.
and you're looking at the Model Y, the RAV4 is either I've got a friend with a hybrid. She
Hmm.
would have got the Prime, but they were, I don't know how easy they are to get now, but at the time she was shopping, it was like,
Impossible.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was unobtainium at the time. So I don't, I'm not surprised.
No, it's, if any car was going to do it, it would be the RAV. So can't say I'm too
Long
shocked.
live Toyota. Okay,
Anyway,
on to the supercars that you kind of teased a little bit here. Uh, what's going on and why the Chinese kicking everybody's butt?
I don't know, but they are, it seems like. So I can't remember if it was last episode or a couple episodes ago, we reported on the Xiaomi SU7 Ultra, um, like setting a Nürburgring record where it like decimated the Taycan and all these, and the Navara, I think, even.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
so I guess it topped its own record recently. Um, so the previous record was 6 minutes, 46.874 seconds. New one is 6 minutes, 26, yeah, 6 minutes, 22.091 seconds under optimal conditions, whatever that means.
Yeah. I don't know what that
And
means.
both of those vehicles were not one you can just go straight into a showroom and buy. They were like specially prepped and
Well, so
who knows what.
that's what I
Yeah.
think we kind of miffed on a little bit last time was I don't know if we said that. I don't I don't remember saying that.
I don't know. We might have just said Xiaomi SU7 Ultra.
Yeah. And I think that was generally what got reported and then there was an article that said the same thing. They reported that it was one thing. And in that article, maybe the article we're going to link to, links in the show notes, where they said that Porsche actually reached out to them and they were like, you know what? There's a caveat to this because our Taycan did it in stock trim, well, as stock as you do it, because
Yeah.
I believe when you go
You
for these
require a
records,
cage. Yeah.
yeah, they still put cages in them and maybe a race seat. But I believe, do they have to run on the stock tires? I think they do.
Mm.
But there are some safety levels because these cars are
Hmm.
they're doing 12 miles
Hmm.
in 6 minutes.
Yeah. Do the
uh,
math. That's well over 100 miles an hour average.
I
Yeah.
did the Silver State Challenge many times, which I'm not actually 100% sure that event still is going on. And in the category that I was running in, it was like 135-mile-an-hour category.
Hmm.
At that speed, you're doing a mile every like 28 seconds or something. I don't remember. I
Hmm.
navigated, and man, you've got this sheet, and you're trying to jot down the mile markers, and
Hmm.
as fast as you could do the math in your mind, you're at the next mile marker. So I started doing them every 2 miles because I just couldn't keep up. And that was in one of the
Hmm.
slower speed brackets. Here, that's what they're doing here. Is
Hmm.
they're averaging like 130. I mean, I haven't done the
Yeah.
math, but
Yeah.
it's
It's moving.
comparable to what I was doing during the Silver State Challenge. But
Yeah.
they're doing it with turns,
Hmm.
which Silver State Challenge doesn't really have any turns. It's a long road
Hmm.
that you got to slow down for a couple corners, but that's about it. So, all right, does this mean anything? I mean, it went fast.
It's a very fast car. I mean, what what more is there to say?
The
If we could buy in the U.S., it would be relatively affordable relative to Taycan
This is the one
or
that's like
Sapphire.
73,000
It's
when
about
you
73,000 in China.
yeah,
I don't know
which
if they're exporting it outside of China. If they were, my guess is it would be 100,000 something.
well, okay, so if they slapped 100% tariff on this, it would still be an amazing deal.
Yeah, 100, 150 grand. Still be way
How
cheaper than Yeah.
How insane is that?
Yeah.
That you could not, you would have to put tariffs on this at like 200 or 300%
Yeah.
to make this
To really sandbag
not
it.
a
Yeah.
good deal. And even at 200%, I think people would still buy it because of the competition that it, like the
Yeah.
cream of the crop that you're running with.
Hmm.
You're beating times if they made this version.
Hmm.
This is not a production version, but if they make this version, you're running
Hmm.
with times equivalent to a $2.4 million Navera.
Hmm. Yeah.
Like, I think people would be willing to spend $250,000 on something like that. If they're willing to buy, which we'll get to, the Celestic, uh, isn't it the Celestic? Isn't that?
Celestic. Yeah.
Yeah. Then, and that's like $300,000.
Yeah.
People are willing to buy that. I think it's going to be impossible to stop the Chinese from coming
Yeah.
and doing this. Although Mercedes is trying.
Yes, evidently.
So they've unveiled the AMG GT, what is that? Double X?
Yeah.
I don't know what that means.
It means no children allowed. Yes. I don't know.
That's almost no children. This is like the PG-13. This is triple X that you got to
Oh,
watch out
gotcha.
for.
Okay.
So this is,
So this is NC-17 then?
I guess, this one, like the SU7 Ultra, this is kind of targeting the Porsche Taycan, I guess.
Yeah, the real top level. I mean, we're talking like 4-figure power output. That
Yeah. Whoa, I just clicked on the
echelon.
link.
Yeah.
1341 horsepower.
Yeah.
That, and it's interesting because these companies are all kind of, they're all saying, oh, Porsche Taycan, Porsche Taycan. What's happened to the Plaid
Plaid?
in any of this?
I don't know if anyone cares anymore.
Is that chopped liver? Is it like, is it just,
Evidently.
is it sullied just by Elon's name at this point that people don't even want to compare it?
I think the novelty's kind of worn off. I'll tell you one thing kind of interesting. I guess in the refresh that they just did on the S and X, they cut the top speed on the Plaid. It used to be, I guess, with the carbon fiber brakes and this, special, voodoo package, they claimed it would do 200 miles an hour. I guess the new Plaids, it's only 149 top speed.
They had a whole issue with that. Remember when that came out and it was supposed to have the high speed thing and it was reliant on something like the wheels?
Mm-hmm.
That there was a special wheel package that you were going to have to buy, and they didn't sell the wheels, much like with the Cybertruck
Yeah.
and the range extender.
Well, and also remember, I don't know if it was the first car ever, but it was the first one in recent memory where it accelerated faster than it braked.
Yeah.
And
Well, so years ago, I was back when I was in the tuner industry.
yeah,
I was on, I don't know, on a call in a meeting, I don't know, a Brembo. And they said something like for a car to brake at the same rate, they were trying to be very impressive on brakes. And they were like,
yeah,
if you translate braking force to horsepower, you need something like 1,500 horsepower to
mhm,
generate the amount of forward thrust as our brakes can decrease. That is, the
mhm,
technology we're dealing with is you put it into horsepower. This is the number. And we all go, this is early 2000s. Whoa, it's incredible. Because back then,
mhm.
400 horsepower is like,
It was like, whoa.
huge.
Yeah.
We're at that number now.
Yeah.
And
There are crossovers and minivans with that kind
yeah,
of power.
and the difference is that now you could do it with less because of traction control, and the
Mhm,
computers have gotten so much better
mhm,
at getting traction, and the tires have gotten so much better at supplying the traction down, applying it to the ground, that you didn't need quite as much. But the technology was something like 1,500, 2,000 horsepower, something like that for
mhm.
braking force. Now you could do it with like 1,100, 1,200 horsepower. And so this AMG is probably a similar thing in acceleration, as fast as it can,
Yeah.
brake.
I didn't see any specs on the brakes. My guess is they're like at least like 16-inch, probably 8 or 10 piston
They're
pizza pans.
all the brakes.
Yeah.
They're all the brakes. That's how many brakes they included. It was all of them.
Yeah. So, some other interesting highlights is it has I think it's a tri-motor 800 volt architecture. They're axial flux motors, which I guess are more power dense, for their size. They put out more power than I guess radial flux is like the more common motor
hmm
design.
Yeah.
So
And this is,
anyway,
of course, that would be the third generation. The first was the flux
mhm.
capacitor.
Yeah,
Did you
yeah.
say this thing goes 223 miles an hour?
I don't know, but yeah, that's what Mercedes is claiming.
And
So
it doesn't even have a rear window. So like that's how fast it is. It's like nothing behind you
doesn't
matters.
matter pretty much. Also, very impressive is they're claiming it can add up to 248 miles of range in 5 minutes.
Wow. That's
But
cool.
again, the caveat probably under optimal conditions, they say. So
Yeah. No, I did they have a price on this? Like a Target?
I, if I
The
had to ballpark it, I'd say about a quarter mil. I don't think they mentioned pricing, but that would be my guess.
yeah, it's one of those that if you can't afford it or if you can't ask,
If you have to
then
ask, you can't
yeah.
afford it. Yeah.
No,
Yeah. In that category.
I like this. The interior's crazy, but not wild, wild.
The
Like
taillight design
everything.
is interesting. The six taillights. I don't know if you saw that.
Let me scroll back up and see. Because we're looking at a car and driver thing. I really, oh yeah, I really like everything about this car. I don't like the fact there's no rear window. I'm sure they have a
Camera.
camera,
I think
whatever.
they have to.
Yeah, but
Even the Polestar had to do that.
no, so I sit there and I say, okay, I'm sure they've got a camera. You notice what's interesting is there are side mirrors on this.
Like actual, like reflective.
Yeah,
Well, because even the camera ones, that they're little wings that with like
no,
cameras that stick out.
these have got mirrors in them, like they're big.
Well, then they're clearly targeting the U.S. market. Then.
And it's orange. It's four-door. Man, I really like this. I
Yeah.
really like this. This is it. Get me this.
And it might only be 220,000.
Yeah.
So such a deal. So speaking of a vehicle that you probably could afford, or most people could afford, uh, also a Xiaomi. This is not a Nürburgring record setter, but maybe a sales record setter. The YU7, their version or their competitor to the Model Y. So it went on sale online. Uh, Care to guess how many orders they got in the first 18 hours?
All of them. Much like the brakes on the Mercedes that uses all of the
All
brakes.
the
This did
breaks,
they get
all the
all of the
orders,
orders?
240,000.
Wow.
So
So that was over how long of a period?
18 hours.
Wow.
So
That's
basically a day and a half, or not even I mean,
I'd have
not
to go
even a
back
full
and
day.
look, but
Yeah.
Cybertruck got some hype, and I bet that was somewhat
Yeah,
similar,
that
wasn't
worked out really well, didn't it? So
it? Yeah.
anyway,
But I mean that's I think that's the category that I would put this in. If those numbers are real, then
well, if
for
they turn into
pre-orders,
deliveries, yeah,
yeah, no,
that's going
delivery,
to be the key.
yeah. So this is their fancy, when we started this podcast, I think I was very vocal on I wouldn't buy a Chinese car because you can't. What are the chances you can repair them, at least in the short term? Like when they first come over, you have a window
Hmm.
regulator break, and now you got like you're duct taping some garbage bags over the glass because you just can't get anything to fix it for a short period. You can't call Rock Auto and order the parts. It's all got to come from China because they're not going to have blah, 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 blah. I don't believe in that anymore.
Yeah,
I've completely changed. I like these.
yeah,
And the more maybe I'm becoming more
like Jim
aware.
Farley.
Well, maybe I'm just becoming more aware of the quality of China stuff. Like my drone, I've got a DJI drone.
Hmm.
Fantastic. I shopped around and I wanted to buy an American drone, and it made no sense to do it. I needed to buy a camera for one of my race cars, and if you're watching on YouTube, I'll pull out my little 360 cam, my Insta 360. If they
Hmm.
want to advertise, they're more than welcome to. I'll give them a plug here. This is like 350 bucks is what I paid for this
Yeah,
thing. It's made in China. I mean, if you wanted like this is the X4, if you got the
yeah.
X5, it was 550 bucks, whatever. But when you
Is
shop
there even
around,
an American equivalent? I mean,
the if there is, it was not uh
$1,500.
yeah, it was not showing up in my searches for any of this.
Hmm.
And the
Hmm.
quality of this stuff, I do some higher end YouTube stuff,
For your
whatever.
day job.
And this is the camera that we use for that.
Hmm.
More recently, we just got one of these for that application, and it's astounding these things. And this is
Hmm.
nothing new. I've seen these at motorsport events, people hang them
Hmm.
off the camera, whatever, or off the car. But it's China stuff is
Hmm.
not the cheap cheap stuff anymore. Like it is
I'm gonna go in the Wayback Machine, and being a Gen X, you might get this reference. If you're a Back to the Future fan, um, they were Doc and Marty were going over like there's some failure on the time machine, and Doc Brown pulled out a little part and says, "Oh, made in Japan, no wonder." And then Marty says, "Doc, the best stuff comes from Japan."
yeah. No, it's that way now. Like
Yeah,
just like 4 or 5 years ago,
yeah,
my tune was completely different. My tune on Chinese stuff was it's fine, I'll buy stuff from China, but don't expect it to be great. It's like buying Harbor Freight stuff.
mm.
Um, buying
Also
Harbor Freight
probably made in
tools
China.
is that, oh well, it's great, it's a good deal, but it'll probably break. Now, that's among my first choice of tools when I go to
Yeah,
buy. I just bought a torque wrench and I didn't buy the Harbor Freight one, but that the Icon line was one of the ones I was looking at. I
uh-huh.
believe those are made in Taiwan. But there,
Yeah.
what
Well,
was cheap
what's
is
funny
now
is
good quality
I
and a
can't
good deal.
remember. I think there's some guy on YouTube that compared Harbor Freight to like uh Snap On and Mac.
Oh, they just outright steal like the torque wrench that I was looking at. It was
Uh,
a split beam, dual
hmm
split beam, and it was way more than the
hmm hmm
Cobalt or Craftsman, which are now like run of the mill
hmm
torque wrenches. So it was like double the price of those, but everybody was saying this is like Snap-on stuff, and
Yeah.
it's made in Taiwan,
hmm
but it's still like so good.
Yeah. And I think
And
they even did some durability testing. They said, eight, 7 or 8 times out of 10, it was just as good.
yeah,
So
and it's guaranteed to be within like 4%, but everybody online's like this is on like 1 point something percent. The
yeah,
point being, I'm in on these Xiaomi's.
yeah.
Bring them to
Well,
America.
I
I
mean,
think
and
I think we're ready for them to just overtake our entire world.
they may about be willing to do that. Let me ask you another question though. Are
Hmm.
you ready for robo taxis to take over the world?
Uh, I don't know about that.
Well, let me ask you this. What if instead of having to go to a delivery center or dealership, your car comes to you? What would you think of that?
So I have problems with this.
Okay, do tell.
Tesla delivered its first, was it a Model Y, I
I think it's a
assume?
Model Y, yeah.
Fully autonomous, drove itself out of the factory and went to somebody's townhouse
Yeah.
and uh,
Awesome.
delivered itself. And in the video, they're showing it as like this big victory, whatever, I guess. I don't know. But the funny thing in the video is the car pulls up and who's there waiting for them?
Tesla.
The owner and then like two or three Tesla people. If you have no hands on a vehicle, you have no quality control.
Mhm.
Even if it's just somebody at the dealership unloading the car to park it in the parking lot, you need somebody that closes the door, opens the door, does something. If this car just drives itself off, it could drive off with bumpers hanging out. Like it's not gonna know.
Uh,
So I have a
That's a
problem
very
with.
cynical take. I
Oh,
mean,
I mean, I
yeah.
it's not. I mean, Tesla's known for its quality control, but but I like the idea of somebody putting eyes and hands on something, especially when it's a $50,000 minimum purchase. I want somebody to have put in some amount of effort into checking that it's all right and
Okay,
signing off on things.
but I think you're getting a little too granular about this. I'm looking at it more from kind of the bigger picture ramifications of this rather than I would assume, maybe erroneously, that they did a QA, a basic QA before it left the factory. It checked out. They're like, okay, it looks pretty good. Sent it on its way. Now, that's not to say on the trip it couldn't have gotten T-boned or, something could have happened.
I should have looked up the
It's
numbers on this FSD, but it's something like, isn't it something like 50% have interventions of the drives? So chances are it does
oh,
have some kind of scrape on it.
anyway. Um, but it's more just like the technological promise. I mean, yeah, you could pick out any number of edge cases, like, oh, the fender's misaligned, or this or that,
Mhm.
or
And
or even, I mean, here's another scenario for you. Let's say they start doing this, more regularly, someone goes over with a fine tooth comb and declines it or rejects it, they could just push a button, send it back,
Hmm.
say, yeah, I'm not accepting this, go back home, you know.
And there's so many stories of Tesla delivering cars, maybe not now, but back earlier, delivering cars with like
Hmm.
horrible body gaps and paint
Hmm.
smudges and everything. So having somebody touch it
Hmm.
uh, from the service center or wherever, it doesn't mean anything really, because they were
Hmm.
delivering some pretty crappy things early on.
Hmm. Hmm.
And like I said, I think they've kind of largely gotten over that issue.
Hmm.
But so that kind of does punch a hole in that. I'm not sold on the autonomous thing, just in general.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
it's finally, like I said, I think the peak hype cycle, at least from my standpoint, was 2018 when it was like this kind of Shangri-La idealistic future, and they claim, oh, next year, there's going to be millions on the road and blah blah blah. It's finally starting to happen, but we're talking like maybe thousands, not even that really yet,
yeah,
hundreds,
yeah,
and mostly like Waymos, that sort of thing. In terms of every car on the road being autonomous, I still think that day by and large will come, but it's still, I would say, probably at a minimum a decade out until autonomous cars are even commonplace, I'd say.
yeah. This though, I'm gonna sound very Tesla negative in this. This is,
Shocker.
I know, right? Um, what happened to Optimus? Optimus came out when they were having failures with being able to make FSD work. And they were charging, oh, it's FSD is going to bring you $100,000 of value to your vehicle, whatever it was. It's going to make you money.
Mhm.
And so they ramped up, oh, it's $6,000. Then it ramped up to like 12,000. Then it had to decrease the amount that they were going to charge you for FSD. And then it turns into like
Mhm.
$100 a month. And even there, you paid 3 grand to upgrade your Model 3 brain to get it to do a
Thousand
free
bucks.
test. And then you didn't pay the $100 a month.
$1,000.
Whatever it was. Uh, so they were all in on the autonomous thing. And when
Mhm.
that kind of stopped pumping the stocks enough, they then went, oh, Optimus, we're a robotics company.
Tap dancing
Yeah.
robots. Yeah.
Literally tap dancing on stage around like, oh, look at our stocks. You should buy it because we are a robotics company
Hmm.
and that's what we are. Now, Optimus is by the wayside again, I guess. I don't
Hmm.
know. And now we're back to autonomous vehicles, no mention of Optimus or that this is using Optimus technology or whatever it is. It's
Hmm.
grabbing at straws again.
All
And
right.
they're
Well,
having to go in um, slowly,
mhm.
which they're showing in Austin, where it's minimal rides with only
Mhm.
specific people, with those cyber cabs that aren't cyber cabs, they're just
Model
Model
Ys.
Ys with a sticker on the side. So it's not what they advertised to begin with. It's just another bait and switch and stock pump by Tesla. And
Yeah,
that's
we'll
what
see.
this delivery is as well. It's a party
Sideshow.
trick. Yeah, it's a sideshow.
Anyway, let me ask you this. We've discussed this particular vehicle more than once. My feelings on it are, I guess, indifferent at best.
Hmm.
Um, the Cadillac Celestiq.
So in our show notes, you put they delivered VIN number one. Oh, this article is great. Link in the show notes of the drive. Cadillac delivers Celestiq VIN number one earlier this week, and great news, it's brown. That's awesome. This is the Zune of cars for the older generation here.
Yeah,
Back in the iPod days, Microsoft had the Zune, and they had a brown edition. That worked out great. Um, no, we don't care. And the
yeah.
answer to your question is, do we care? We don't care.
I don't particularly care. I mean,
No.
good for them, I guess. I just
Yeah. Somebody will
I don't
buy
know.
it. It'll be fine. Um, I don't know.
Yeah.
What I like about it is that it's returning Cadillac back to its roots of big and luxurious and whatever, but it's not going to move the needle. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The Celestiq just doesn't matter.
No, I'll tell you what model has been pretty successful for Cadillac though, and we'll see if that continues into the EV age.
Hmm.
The Escalade. So I think we talked about this. I think it was the last week. Tom Malogny of
Hmm.
State of Charge did a range test,
Yep.
and at a highway speed of 70, and it overperformed its EPA rating, I guess. So I guess just for science's sake, I guess, or YouTube's sake, he
Yeah.
dropped
It's for YouTube's sake.
YouTube's sake. Yeah, he dropped his cruising speed to 60.
Yeah, he did 400. Did you already say this? Was I
I
not paying
think
attention? He did,
482 miles. I want
yeah,
to say, and
more
rated
than,
at
well, more than
416.
a bladder's worth of travel. He
Yeah,
did. And that's at the 70-mile-an-hour test. So
yeah,
he dropped this to 60, and how far did he go?
607 miles.
All right, got a question for you. Who
Yes,
drives 60 for 600 miles? What purpose was this test?
it clicks, I guess.
I mean, okay, let's drop it to 50, to 40. I've had this conversation before. There's an optimal speed for every car. There is a
Yeah.
perfect efficiency for distance for
Mhm.
every car. So if that for the Escalade is 28 miles an hour, is he going to go and do 28 miles an hour and get 800 miles? What's the point?
I don't know. The point is, this thing has plenty of battery, I guess.
I will need to. He goes on. What is that? Batteries included. Is that the
State
one?
of charge.
State of charge. Okay.
Yeah.
He. I need to go and listen because I'm sure he talks about it there and justifies why he does 60 miles an hour. I don't. I question the 70-mile-an-hour test
Yeah.
because I don't think the majority of people in the country drive 70 miles an hour on the freeway for extended periods of time. I don't think that
Yeah.
exists. I think if you live somewhere where you're doing extended higher speed stuff, you're going well faster than 70.
I know I
So
do.
yeah. And then if you're in like LA or any metropolitan area, you're not driving 70. You're
Because of
driving,
traffic.
yeah, you're driving 65 and then 30 and then 20 and then 80 and then 40 and then maybe
Ex-
90 and then, like
exactly.
the
Yeah.
test, you've got to come up with some kind of test. And that's what they've done. No, I can't fault them on that. But it doesn't apply to anybody. The 70-mile-an-hour one, I think it applies to more people, but still, if you live in parts of the country where you're two-lane open road, there's no traffic, and you go for, 100, 200 miles,
Yeah.
that is more applicable at
Well, I
70.
mean, but
But this,
70,
I would say, is applicable to nobody.
I don't know, but it seems like 70 is kind of the common speed for EV range tests. I think Car and Driver also does an average, tries to maintain an
Yeah,
average speed of 70. And I think the reason they do it is it's slow enough where you're not like cop bait.
yeah,
But it's fast enough where it's like, well, this is kind of in the ballpark of the
yeah,
average speed of the average driver.
yeah. No, I
I mean, it,
understand how you end there.
well, I mean, so I guess if you wanted to do a quasi legal 80-mile-an-hour test, there are now I think they're toll roads, but there are roads, highways in Texas with an 85 top
Yep,
speed.
there's just south of Austin. You could do it
Yeah.
there. It's the
So
highest
I guess,
freeway, highest speed freeway in America, 85 miles an hour.
yeah. So I guess if you wanted to do a high speed range test, I mean, that's where you'd want to do it. But
Where I would be interested to see this, and I don't know if Tom Malogny, he doesn't listen to this podcast, I'm sure, but maybe somebody does that, somebody knows him. I don't know, whatever. I'll go trailer up to this. You generally lose
mm,
about 50% of your range.
yep.
Now, in California, you are limited to towing at 60 miles an hour. That is your speed limit when you
Hmm.
have a trailer behind you.
Hmm.
Most other states are not that way. But even when I tow out of state, I generally, and I say this, and I just went to Texas and was towing at 80 miles an hour, but I was nervous and I made some phone calls before I did it to people that had towed that rig before to make sure I could do it. Anyway, I generally try to tow 60 to 65 miles an hour. That's kind of
Hmm.
my limit.
Hmm.
There's just things can go bad. If
Yeah.
you're lucky, it's just a tire blowout and it, doesn't even damage your fender. But when you, whatever. In California, I mostly tow around 60. If that means I could get 300 miles out of this
Hmm.
towing,
Hmm.
now I think that that's a useful test.
Hmm.
But I think most people in America do not tow at 60 miles an hour. Based on what I've seen,
Yeah.
you're doing 65, maybe 70.
Well, you heard it here, Tom. If you're listening to this, hook a trailer up to that bad boy.
Yeah, or GM could give me one of these things and I can hook my trailer up and I tow it gladly at 60. The problem is I live in California where there's mountains. So
Hmm.
none of this applies because I know he does his test on like the turnpike and it's mostly like flat.
Yeah.
So, it's like, it's the problem with any of these tests is it's not even your mileage will vary. or your mileage may vary. It will.
It will vary.
It will vary. There's nothing you can do about it. You can never duplicate that. And even if Tom Malogny went and got out there and did this again, his mile would vary. His mile would vary. You know,
It's my old vary.
it's time to end the podcast when I can't even speak words.
You got a
All right.
few others. Do you want to wrap it or you want to?
I'm looking to wrap it up because I have
All right.
got to go. I've got things to do. I don't have time
All right.
to do anything. I don't know. We've got a busy summer coming up between you and me, so hopefully we'll have some special episodes here and there with us chatting and me being less cynical about
Hopefully.
Tesla. I really want to be less cynical about Tesla. I really do.
We may have a special guest episode coming up. I'm working behind the scenes on trying to make that happen, but we'll keep you posted on that.
Awesome.
All right.
Okay. Well, I'm going to
Till
go and
next
shop for
week.
some Chinese SUVs now.
Okay.
See ya.
See ya.